So, welcome back. And we have now esteemed guest with us, Chris Gopalakrishnan. Chris has been a global business and technology thought leader for his role in growing IT services worldwide. He co-founded Infosys, where he served as CEO and managing director from 2007 to 2011, and vice chairman from 2011 to 2014. Chris has also been very active in promoting Indian startup ecosystem and has been philanthropically supporting research on brain science, age-related disorders, and healthcare in India. Chris has been awarded Padma Bhushan, and as we know and we have seen him, he's been actively shaping technology and startup ecosystem through myriad of roles. Chris is the chairman of Accelerate Ventures, an early stage startup accelerator. And he's also chairman, board of governor, IIIT Bangalore. Please welcome Chris. We look forward to your keynote.
Thank you, Pradeep. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. It's an honor and privilege to talk to you today. I'm told that you had wonderful deliberations throughout the day on where we go from here, what the future looks like. I was given feedback on some of the comments that were made, issues that were raised during the day, and I will touch upon some of these and give my perspectives on these. As Pradeep already mentioned, after I stepped down from Infosys in 2014, I have been very active supporting research. I've been active in supporting startups, and I've also been working with industry bodies like CII, the Confederation of Indian Industries, working with the Government of India and the state government. So, I in the last 6 years, I have a reasonable insight, if I may say so, into what is happening in India. I have also funded startups in the country. The first point I want to make is that, the progress has been significant in every aspect of innovation. When I look at, on the research side or how academia works with industry, I will use the example of what happened during the COVID pandemic, right? Before the pandemic, India was not manufacturing any ventilators. We quickly saw the need for, domestic manufacturing of ventilators. Few professors from IITs came together along with industry, defense establishment, government, put together design, and they manufacture now ventilators in India, and India is an exporter of ventilators. There's even a book out, the ventilator story from people at IIT Kanpur. Just one example of how the ecosystem can come together. I think what is needed, as some of you have pointed out, is a deeper collaboration between academia, industry, government. And what pandemic has shown is that it is possible to do that. So how can we now do this at scale? How can we do this in more number of projects? The other thing the pandemic has shown is our ability to actually look at deep science. And again, I will use the example of vaccine itself, both on the vaccine manufacturing side, as well as creating new vaccines out of India. India is doing actually well. About 50 to 60% of the vaccines manufactured in the world are going to be manufactured or already being manufactured out of India. And India's role is very, very critical if all of the world is going to get vaccinated, because we make vaccination affordable. Similarly, India has also come up with vaccines of our own. 4 or 5 candidates are going through various trials at this point. Some of them are already approved for emergency use. And India has again shown that India is capable of doing deep science through this. And I firmly believe that the IITs are able to do this. So that's one set of things that you came up with, and some of the comments, that patient capital is required, global capital must come into India. The government must make rules simple for global capital to come to India, must make rules simple, makes the tax, taxes are levied on domestic capital. All of these things should be simplified. These are well taken. Government is aware of these things. And I can say with confidence that many of these things are being eased as we speak, and things will improve as we go along. The last point I want to make about this aspect of industry collaboration with startup, etc. 20% of the startups are deep tech now, and this number is increasing. Some of these startups are already becoming global startups, going from India to other parts of the world. Similarly, some of these startups have crossed 100 million in valuation. Some are about 500 million in valuation, and a few will become unicorns, that is $1 billion in valuation or above. Some of them are going to go for IPOs, especially the SaaS related startups are going for IPOs. That's also good for the ecosystem. One, the confidence of our startups becoming global, our startups becoming unicorns, our startups doing IPOs. Second, as they have exits, this also creates new set of investors. Now, what will the top leadership in these companies do? They will, of course, spend a little bit of money to buy things which they don't have, but they will spend a bulk of that money reinvesting back into startups, becoming angel investors, becoming mentors and things like that. And so that again is a positive thing that I'm seeing. The other set of comments came about technologies like space technology, quantum computing, drones, some of the emerging areas that are going to create new opportunities, new businesses, new business models, etc. Here again, it's not a challenge about capability, about understanding technology, about ability to create technologies, etc. It's a challenge of actually getting sufficient funding into these areas at scale. And I've been always saying that the investment into research and basic research must scale up significantly. Today, India invests about 0.7% of GDP onto research, 0.6 comes from government, and 0.1%, only 0.1 comes from industry. So government is increasing its investments into research, and it's also setting up a national research fund, a national research foundation, very similar to the NSF in the US. And I'm confident that the government funding will increase. The philanthropic funding is increasing. I'm personally involved in some of those, and Tatas are involved in a big way in supporting research for many years, actually. And they are also scaling up, and others are coming forward to support research. I'm involved with Indian Institute of Science and IIT Madras, and I see that the collaboration between industry and academia. For example, Bosch, I'll just take one example. They've set up centers both at Indian Institute of Science and IIT Madras, and that is also scaling up. The third is the industry funding. Industry funding can happen through sponsored projects as well as CSR. Again, government now allows CSR funding to go to research, and so we are seeing research funding increasing from industry through the CSR route. We also need to see industry funding for research increasing 0.1%. Industry must do research within themselves also. So all of these things will have to increase in the future. If we say India should invest 3% of its GDP in research, 1.5 from government and 1.5 from industry. The government and the philanthropic funding goes primarily, let's say 70% into basic and 30% into applied. Industries funding must go 70% into applied and 30% into basic. This is something that we all have to work together. We also need to create a market for these technologies in India. We need users, we need customers in India. So that's something we all need to work on. Some of these technologies are going to be purchased by government itself, and government must streamline its purchases of technology. There are some challenges here. Governments all over the world must have certain processes, and in India, it's a lot more, let's say, complex. And so we need to make sure that there's attention paid to this. And I'm repeating some of these points because these points came up during the day, and I'm kind of summarizing and reiterating these as challenges or issues. And I'm hopeful again that these will be addressed because I'm seeing this, and Anant is here, Annette Krishnan from TCS is here. We are all in some of these committees, and we are trying our best to make sure that the purchase procedures are similar. There is a allocation made to startups. There's an allocation made to work with academic institutions, etc. In this regard, I will pick out one department of the government, Department of Biotechnology, which has done I would say, very good job of working with academia, industry, and in the biotech space. I believe that India is world class, and it is also demonstrated during the COVID times. The third set of comments came around the curriculum, the classroom, on the academic side of the IITs, and where lots and lots of experiments are being conducted, and lots of experiments where, or at least some of these experiments, which are even, I would say, first in the world. And that augurs very well for IITs. India has come out with the new education policy, which gives a lot of flexibility in terms of which subjects you can take, major, minor, how credits are transferable, how you can actually go from one academic institution to another academic institution, transferring your credits, how you can take courses from multiple academic institutions. All of these things are being tried out in IITs as we speak. Different IITs are doing different experiments. They are a lot more now innovative and risk-taking in trying out some of these experiments, and these are scaling up. As they succeed, you will see more and more such experiments happening. There's one experiment which is very interesting for me, which is flipping the model that IITs are used to. IITs traditionally make it extremely difficult for people to get into IIT, and once you get in, it's rather easy because only the best of the best get in, and they get a easy transit through the IIT system, and they come out on the other side as graduates, right? The flipping that model is something interesting. It's just started, and we need to wait and see whether it makes sense. What IIT Madras, for example, has done, and I believe some of the other IITs are also trying this out. They have come out with courses where anybody who has got a admission into any engineering college is admitted automatically if they apply. So it's very easy to get in. It's very easy to exit also. So what happens is if they do one course, they get a certificate for that one course. If they complete a mini set of 3 or 4 courses, completing one aspect of a particular technology, they get a certificate for that. So you can exit by getting certificates. But if you want to get a degree from IIT, right, at the end, say that you're a graduate of IIT, they make it extremely difficult. They make sure that you pass exactly the same test criteria that a normal IIT student would go through. And so you are on par with an IIT student. You graduate only if you comply or if you meet all the requirements of an IIT student, and then you get an IIT degree. So this is, in some sense, flipping the model. The benefit of this is a lot more people can actually experience and participate in the IIT story, IIT model, IIT curriculum. India is a vast country and you need a large number of people to take advantage of the IIT system. But then you make sure that only the best out of the best come out on the other side with an IIT degree. I believe, again, this is a wonderful experiment. So a lot of these experiments are going on. And I, again, believe that this augurs well for the IITs, and it'll also bring new revenue streams for the IIT. So all in all, when I look at research, yes, capability exists. A lot of new areas are being addressed. Industry participation is increasing. Centers of excellence are being created. A lot of new areas are coming in. A lot of global collaboration is happening. A lot more could be done. A lot more funding is necessary. A lot more interaction with industry is necessary. Participation of industry is necessary. The vehicles, the tools, the examples, the case studies are there. We need to scale them up. The startup ecosystem in India is quite vibrant, third largest, many unicorns being created. We will see more deep tech unicorns coming out of India. I'm very optimistic about that. The sheer momentum will make sure that it happens. A lot more of the students as well as faculty will participate in this as they see the benefit and the advantage and the success stories coming out of this. And the third aspect is the curriculum, the academic side of it, the student side of it, etc. And there also a lot of experiments are happening. So I believe that the IIT system is poised to actually take advantage of the opportunities and take India to the next orbit in terms of research, in terms of new IP creation, new knowledge creation, and in terms of new business creation, startups, etc. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this occasion. I believe the future is good, and I believe that IITs will have a much bigger role to play in creating that future. Thank you all very much. Over to you, Pradeep.
Thank you, Chris. And it's heartening to see the positive, vibe across the working between industry and the institute. And also, you covered a wide canvas, which definitely looks on a positive. What we are also really looking at, where you don't need to really make it compulsory for industry to put money into research. So I think the real coming to maturity would be when industry really seeks research from the institute, and I do believe that it will also help reduce the research costs. So just one line from you, and
yes, so that is why I said that industry will have to increase its investment in R&D, both in-house as well as with academia. That's a commitment that industry will have to make. As we transition to a knowledge economy, ownership of that knowledge, ownership of the IP becomes important. So that's a transition that we have to make, and it's starting to happen. It will not be a compulsion from the government. It will be a acceptance from the industry, or industry voluntarily doing it so that they can compete on the global scale. if you look at the SaaS startups, if you look at deep tech startups, which is about 20% of the current startups, I think it's starting to happen.
Thank you, Chris, and great having you here. We would like you to just be around, and now I will request Surilji to take it ahead.
Good afternoon and good morning, depending on which part of the world you are in. Dr. Guruzar Deshpande, popularly known as Desh, is a trustee of Deshpande Foundation along with his wife Jayashree. He is also the president and chairman of Sparta Group LLC and chairman Tejas Network. Desh's entrepreneurial career spans over more than 3 decades. He was involved as a founder, a founding investor, or a chairman of several companies. Desh lives in Boston and serves as a life member of MIT Corporation, and his support has allowed MIT to create its Deshpande Center for Technological Innovation. Deshpande Foundation, founded by Desh and Jayashree, strengthens the ecosystem and creates significant social and economic impact through entrepreneurship, innovation. This Deshpande Foundation has facilitated the foundation of several other centers, including Deshpande Center for Social Entrepreneurship in India, Innovation and Ecosystem at IIT Madras. Deshpande Foundation has done phenomenal work in India, especially in Karnataka, to improve the life of rural people in agriculture, water, healthcare, education, and other areas. Desh holds his BTech in Electrical Engineering from IIT Madras, ME from University of New Brunswick in Canada, PhD from Queen's University, Canada. So please welcome Desh Deshpande. Desh, over to you.
Thank you, Pradeep. Talking about entrepreneurship, when I left India in 1973, so when I used to come back to India in 70s, 80s is when Chris was just starting his Infosys, 90s, even early 2000, people would be very curious and they would say, hey, what is venture capital? What is a term sheet and so on? But now we're at a stage where India is pretty much leading the world in terms of number of IPOs and unicorns and so on. So there's quite a bit happening. But if the future is going to be driven by these startups, the question is, what can we all do? What can the country do to really make sure that anybody who has an idea, who gets started, has a good chance of being successful? Entrepreneurship is something that you can never guarantee success, but you can improve the chances. It's a little bit like childbirth. When we didn't have the appropriate medical technology, there was a lot of infant mortality, but now we've reduced it quite a bit. So similarly, what can we do? And IITians, obviously today and yesterday, we talked a lot about different technologies and new tools that are being available. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about the ecosystem. How can the IITians play a leadership role in setting up the ecosystem, but also entrepreneurs, how can they take advantage of this ecosystem? So when I co-chaired the Council for Innovation Entrepreneurship for Obama's administration, we identified 5 things to really set up the ecosystem and make entrepreneurs successful. First of all, you need great ideas, because if you want to build larger and larger companies, you need depth in whatever it is that you're doing. Secondly, you need entrepreneurs. You need talent. You need access to market, and you need access to capital. In terms of ideas, as Chris was talking about, both industry and government are investing more and more money, but you can generate ideas and you can have an inventory of lots of great ideas. But it's very important that we develop a system where ideas have impact, either social impact or economic impact, and they create value. And that value feeds back into the innovation economy again, so that we create a positive cycle where there is a lot more generation of ideas and a lot more economic growth and so on, so that it becomes a little bit more self-sustaining. To be able to do that, the key thing is to bring thinkers and doers together. Whenever you want great ideas that nobody has ever thought about, you have to create an innovative environment. And innovative environment, always, you cannot mandate what they should do. And therefore, you have to let them have the freedom so that they can think about whatever they want to think about. But every time you create an innovative environment, like either university, research lab, or even within companies or policymakers, they tend to slowly, over the course of time, get more into impressing each other as opposed to impact. And therefore, any innovative environment, any researchers, if they have a desire for economic impact, social impact, there has to be a conscious effort to connect those innovators to relevance. So the thinkers have to connect it to doers, and the doers also have to reach out to thinkers. And this is the experiment we tried out in MIT about 20 years ago, then funded National Science Foundation to launch a nationwide program called ICORE, which is now a nationwide program. And I'm very pleased that Chris, my wife Jayashree, and we set up this Krishnan Center at IIT Madras, which is now running this program out of IIT Madras, IIT Bombay, IISc, and IIT Delhi. And I'm hoping over the course of the next 4 or 5 years, it'll get embraced by the government and all the research money that we spend. There's pure research, which we need to do. But anytime we're doing translational research, there has to be a very conscious effort to make sure that those researchers are connected to relevance. If you did that, you come with ideas that are really impactful, have a lot more depth in terms of what they're trying to do. So we generate ideas. And then entrepreneurship, it's pretty rampant right now, and we need to promote that a little bit more. And the Prime Minister and all the political leadership, the industry leadership, should use their convening power to celebrate and the good entrepreneurship activities that's going on right now. In terms of talent, I think once upon a time when people like Chris were starting Infosys, affordable, good talent was sort of the key advantage. But given the number of IPOs and the unicorns right now, the talent has become very expensive and very scarce in India. There's not enough talent. In fact, a lot of the companies are now joking that they'll have to outsource their work to Silicon Valley. And so it's very important that IITs continue to play the role of developing talents from the IITs, but also what Chris talked about, reaching out to non-IITians to make sure that those people are ready. And so even though we need some entrepreneurs, we need almost every graduate and everybody that we touch to be entrepreneurial, because for every entrepreneur, you'll need another 100 entrepreneurial people. And so making entrepreneurship a key part of training at IIT Madras and giving every student an experiential opportunity to be a good entrepreneur is very important. So if you have access to good ideas, entrepreneurs, good talent, access to market is very important. Fortunately, India is a very large country and the markets are pretty big. So there is a domestic market. And also now India has consumers at all economic strata. Therefore, people can participate in products for lots of different categories. But when it comes to infrastructure, countries like China have used fantastically their access to market within the country. They have the preferential market access without killing the competition to develop a lot of the economy locally. And it's amazing to see what companies like Huawei have done within China. India is trying, Atmanirbhar is very much along those lines. but they need to make those policies a little bit more effective so that the local companies do have access to the market. In fact, that's a key part of the strategy in the United States. The government, whenever they have procurement, they make all that procurement available to 8A companies, minority-owned, women-owned companies, so that that market is accessible to the early startups, which can then mature into bigger companies. Access to capital, India has come a long way. It's amazing now. Once upon a time, raising a few lakhs, a crore or 2 crores used to be like a big challenge, but now you tend to see every day you hear news about another unicorn, another person raising $1 billion. I mean, it looks like there's just so much capital out there that if this trend continues, which I think it will, access to market will never be a challenge. And I know not every entrepreneur will get funded, and every entrepreneur should not get funded, because I've never met an entrepreneur who believes that their idea is a bad idea, right? Everybody has conviction that their idea is a fantastic idea. But and every entrepreneur always feels disappointed when their ideas don't get funded. However, it's very important that we have a good mechanism to be selected. So it'll always be selective, it'll always be competitive to access the capital. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of, there'll always be a different category of companies that will pop up within the economy that will not have access to capital. For example, the tier two cities in India, the rural markets and so on, where the profits may not be very high. So any idea that can scale and has a high margin now, it's pretty easy to raise money in India, and a lot of it. But there'll always be pockets, and so the policymakers always have a job to do where they make sure that they develop those things. Now, so the two things I talked about, which can get in the way of a lot of the companies now getting started growing, one is access to talent. Another one is the disconnect that's going on. If you look at last year, the number of unicorns, the number of funding that's being raised is just amazing. But at the same time, the people below the poverty line, their problems have gotten even worse. In fact, there's anywhere from 50 million to 100 million people who've been pulled back into below the poverty line. So you have these two extremes. You have a world of plenty, and then you have a world of scarcity. And that can become a big political issue, which will then lead to a lot of regulatory issues and so on. And so I think the IITians, as they get a little bit more into the leadership position and have the ability to work on policies and have resources and have a way to think about it, we need to make sure that we don't just chase the top end of the society. We need to make sure that we bring the power of innovation, entrepreneurship, technology, all these things to improve the lot of the people at the bottom. I think it's what I found is that a lot of the technologists, IITians, Pan IIT has a pretty big program. They have a huge desire to actually help people, particularly in India, because it's very hard to escape what's going on there, because all the problems are right in front of you. You see them every day, and you want to help. But all of us IITians tend to think about these problems in our own context. And sometimes I see a lot of the IITians rushing a little too quickly into coming up with innovative solutions for these people who have very little. Unfortunately, that's a wrong thing to do. We all know that you cannot build a good company without really understanding your customer. And in most of the time when you're developing products for people who live like ourselves, it's in some ways somewhat easier to actually, because if we just use our own experiences, we can come up with a product that makes sense for the other people. But when you have people who live on 5,000 rupees a month, 10,000 rupees a month, their disposable incomes are so small that when you come up with a product and you say, hey, try this product out, they can't. They don't have the risk capital. They don't have the disposable income to actually try it out. Most of us these days, whenever we have a problem, if somebody suggests a solution, the first thing we do is we just go buy it and try it out. And if it doesn't work, no big deal. You throw it away and you move on. That's not what these people can do. Even if you come up with a fantastic intervention, a life-changing intervention that just costs 10,000 rupees, they don't have the 10,000 rupees to invest. And for them, taking a risk of any sort is very hard. And therefore, whenever we take a solutions to these people, we have to take solutions that are bulletproof, that are a lot more tried and tested, and absolutely make sure that they work. And if they don't work, you better make sure that you have a money-back guarantee so that their livelihood is not affected. And so it becomes very, very important to really understand that customer base. And it's very hard for us to understand that customer base living the way we do and the communities that we move around in. And therefore, co-creating the solution with them and leading with relevance as opposed to leading with innovation becomes very, very key. And so, but once you get it going, then you have the opportunity to start scaling those solutions. And when you start scaling those solutions, that's when I think all the stuff that we use in the developed economy, in the economy for the people with the disposable income become very useful. We can then use financial engineering. We can use technology. We can use good management skills, logistics, supply chain, all these techniques that we use, we can use that to actually multiply the impact of what we are creating. So, I've been working for about 15 years in India on some of these issues. And the lesson has been that it's a lot harder than building a high-tech company. It takes a lot longer. You need a lot more patience. But finally, I'm beginning to see some light. We started a program called the Farm Pond Program, where we dig a hole that's 100 feet by 100 feet by 12 feet. And that doubles and triples the income of farmers who own about 5 acres of land. We have done about 6,000 of them until last year. But last year, we launched a program to do 100,000 of them, where a typical farm pond costs about 80,000 rupees. So it's an 800 crore program. The farmer actually pays 20,000. State Bank of India gives the other 60,000 loan. And we build the farm pond and then work with the farmer to make sure he returns that money within a year. We use a lot of advanced technology to be able to do this. There's about 30 satellites that go around India. And we have our global chief technology officer in Silicon Valley, who's developing a rural transformation technology center in Hubli, Karnataka. And so now we get the opportunity to use a lot of the stuff that we already know. But you can't get there without co-creating the solution and coming with a product that people really believe in it. When you have a long list of farmers who actually want these farm ponds. We already have a backlog of about 10, 15,000 farm ponds that shows that the product works and they want it. And now we get the opportunity to use all the advanced technologies. So I think IITians will play and have to play a major role in developing this ecosystem because the world is going to change. And each one of us have only two options. Either we grudgingly accept the change or we lead the change. And IITians are the ones who are going to lead the change and also facilitate people who want to make a change to be more successful. So I wish all the IITians, I really appreciate the leadership that IITs and IITians are providing within the country. I know I don't live in India, live here, but now I'm spending most of my time in the foundation. So I'm in touch with India pretty much every day on Zoom. And I'm very, very impressed. And I hope that India will find a way not only to uplift just the people at the top, but also people at the bottom, become a beacon of hope and show the world as to how you can bring that hope to billions of people because the world is heading the wrong way right now. I mean, there are people automating and there are people being automated. And if we don't take care of that situation, we're going to create a very unstable world. And so I hope IITians will play a big role in making sure that not only the change will happen in the future, but the change will happen for the better. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Desh, for providing us insight into innovation, talent development, entrepreneurship, and how IITs can replicate the model that you have created at IIT Madras, at the Innovation Center, in other engineering colleges and IIT. Desh, you are doing phenomenal work in rural development in Hubli district. How can Pan IIT and other industries can get involved to replicate this model in other areas? And considering that the industries now, they have to spend CSR fund. And I'm aware of what you're doing in Hubli, great work that you are doing. Some, you pointed out here. So how can Pan IIT get involved along with the industries to replicate that model in other areas?
Yeah. Each IITian should, essentially the whole thinking process starts with two things that you can do. Number one, every individual who wants to get involved with that effort should say, how much time can I devote and how much money can I devote, right? Because those are the only two things that you have at your disposal, resources and time. And they should craft their involvement with the sector based on what they can do. I mean, they need to do what makes them happy, because if they're not happy, nothing is going to happen. So some people can do 1 hour a month. Some people can do it their whole life. Some people can do $1. Some people can do $1 million. So they need to pick and choose how much can they, because what I find in that sector is that people think that they can solve the problem very quickly by just doing something, by just writing a check, by just giving up a little bit of time. And there's nothing but disappointment, unfortunately, because the problems are so complex. So I think once people decide how much time can they give and how much resources can they give, then they should start engaging. None of us are ever going to be entrepreneurs in that sector. We are only enablers. And then we can latch on to the right level of activity to make sure it works. But the other thing, I think the other thing I've found is that, unfortunately, in that sector, the benchmarks are very low. So, I know we're doing good work in Hubli, but it's still a long way to go. And sometimes we start duplicating things a little too fast. It's like having an unbaked product, and you start making millions of them and you duplicate and you have a big recall and everything gets messed up. So I think we need to be a lot more demanding in terms of the efficacy of the programs that we come up with. And IITs can play a big role in that. They can add their expertise, but they should really decide how much time they want to get, how much resources they want to get, and then find a good way to pull it all together so that we can use it effectively.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Sunilji. Hi, now I would like to introduce Annette Krishnan, who is on stage. I worked with Anand since 2004, almost 17 years, but this was mostly around IIT Delhi activities in Chennai. Anand has been the driving force behind both the IIT Delhi Chennai chapter and activities like the Iit Alumni Center, which has been set up in the research park. Annette Krishnan directs research and innovation at TCS, which is India's largest IT company. Under his leadership, TCS has created significant portfolio of patents, papers, and IP. Anand serves on several governing councils in academia, industry, and advisory boards, and also in government committees. He has been a regular invitee to the board of TCS since 1999. Anand was elected a fellow of the INAE in 2013. He is a distinguished alumnus of IIT Delhi in 2009. and has been listed in Computer World's 100 IT Leaders 2007 and InfoWorld's Top 25 CTOs in 2007. Anant is an MTech in Computer Science and an MSc in Physics from IIT Delhi. Anant, over to you.
Thank you, Rohit, for that kind introduction, and absolute privilege to be on the same session as Chris and Desh. I've come to know them and respect them enormously for the work that they do, and very, very powerful points made by both of them. So what I thought I will do in about 10 minutes is to summarize for this conference my thoughts on how to make alumni more relevant to some of the challenges that both Chris and Desh have laid before us, and also, of course, the great opportunity that India is sitting on over the next decade or so. It's both a challenge and an opportunity. So what is it that alumni can do as individuals and as groups? And Desh touched upon some of that. But I'll just drill down in about 4 or 5 points in the next few minutes. First of all, I think alumni have an important role to play to the next evolution of the IIT system itself. The IIT system is very different from what it was when certainly Desh was a student, Chris was a student, and even when I was a student. It's now at least 40, 50 years since each of us graduated. And that evolution continues. Now, all of us are in different positions of responsibility with different backgrounds, different capabilities. I've served on the board of IIT Bombay, and I've realized close up, the kind of willingness to change and the power that the boards have now in setting a new direction for each IIT and the overall system as well. So I think if IITians, each of us can play a role in that ecosystem which is emerging around each of the IITs, whether it's we are playing a role in industry, we are running startups, we are entrepreneurs, we are VCs, we are in government, whatever. I think that tie back to our own institutes plus the overall system and giving it a positive direction to help and speed up that evolution, I think is going to be very critically important. Glad to report that this is happening. For example, in IIT Delhi, a bunch of us alumni got together 3 or 4 years ago. I was involved, Jayant Sinha was involved, many others, and we created the first outline of what a new governance system for IIT Delhi could look like. A much more detailed exercise is going on at IIT Bombay now, with help from McKinsey, and it should set the new direction for IIT Bombay. These kind of efforts are triggered by the institute, but significantly helped by alumni. Of course, helping the IITs with governance, financials, fundraising, many of us are playing roles. At IIT Delhi itself, Rohit is involved, Pips is involved in the foundation. All the IITs have that. I think that should, of course, continue, but also let's bring in our expertise in strategy, in executing projects, working in consortia, and guide the IIT system. They are more than willing to listen. And I'm sure that came up repeatedly in the directors panel as well today. Second action item for us in alumni, those of us who are in industry, I think we have a significant role to play in encouraging that industry and academia collaboration, whether it's joint labs, whether it's collaborative research, whether it's monetization of IP, getting and setting up our own labs in the emerging IIT research parks. I'm happy to report that TCS Research is the anchor at IIT Madras Research Park, the IIT Kharagpur Research Park in Calcutta, the IIT Delhi Research Park, the IIT Bombay Research Park, and now we're talking to Kanpur, Gandhinagar, Hyderabad, all of that. So unless we play a positive role as alumni to bring our company research facilities to the research parks, who else will come? Right? And then the momentum builds up. IIT Madras Research Park is a great example of what the art of the possible is. Then, of course, continuing to support the IITs in their endeavor to reach out through whether it's internships, whether it's sabbaticals, consortium projects, all of these, we have an enormous role to play. TCS Research has a disproportionate number of people who are IIT alumni. And by golly, that helps. If my professor calls me up and says, Anant, I need help, I will help. If Gautam Shroff's prof calls him or he's on the board of IIT, that personal connect will help us accelerate that industry academia gap. Doesn't matter if you're not in India. If whichever part of the world you're in, if your companies have an interest in collaborating with the IITs, you be the force to drive that collaboration. A specific focus area is item number 3, which is something which both Desh and Chris talked about, which is the ecosystem for deep science and deep tech. India has enormously tough problems. Many of the early stage research which happens in the IIT system is what in industry we would call a TRL1, TRL2, TRL3. Great idea, but it is definitely not going to be bulletproof like what Desh articulated. You cannot scale something unless it is totally bulletproof. The good news is that the ideas are there. And this so-called deep science research or deep tech research, products which are going to be game-changing, which might have all kinds of technology, not just information technology and computing, but all kinds of technologies. That effort, I think, is something that I'd specifically like to call out. Some of us are involved in this individually as well as institutionally. I'm involved with the Indian Institute of Science, IIT Delhi, IIT Madras, and a few other IITs to actually organize a series of ecosystem events starting next month. There's going to be a Deep Science, Deep Tech conference anchored at IISc Bangalore, with all the other IITs also participating. We're bringing the Deep Science, Deep Tech ecosystem, the funding agencies, the people who need the technology, whether they are in the social sector, whether they are in the industry sector or in any other, and just kickstart that whole ecosystem, of course, with significant industry participation and government participation. So that is an example of what we can do with a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and of course, our talent and time. Money, of course, is there, and we will certainly channelize that going forward. Last 2 points are related to two ends of the spectrum. Chris mentioned a lot of effort at the national level, and Desh also talked about the role of agencies like the National Research supporting agencies in the US, the success that we have had in India in biotechnology with the constructs like BIRAC. COVID-19 has really given us enormous proof that the India biotech sector is so well geared for this. Just as an example, when the pandemic started, there was only one lab in India which was authorized to do the COVID-19 RT-PCR test, which is in Pune at the National Institute of Virology. Imagine if that had continued to be the only lab where we could do an RT-PCR test for COVID-19. Today, we are doing millions of tests a day, and we have literally done perhaps a couple of billion tests already. How did that happen? There is a huge initiative on the indigenous manufacture of not just the RT-PCR test equipment, but the entire value chain of elements required, whether it's consumables, whether it's chemicals, whether it's skills, training, and so on. And this was a great effort orchestrated by the Prime Minister's office, the Department of Biotechnology, many agencies in the CSIR lab system, industries like TCS, and it's a standing success story of what the art of the possible is. So that kind of a national mission level intervention are happening at all levels. The National Research Fund has been set up. There's a national AI mission. There's a national quantum mission. There's a national mission for cyber-physical systems that Chris chairs, and I am privileged to be part of his board on that. All of these are driven by great intent from the government. Many of us from the IIT alumni are playing roles in boards, in guiding these, and so on. If I just take the NMICPS as one drill-down example, 25 technology innovation hubs have been set up. Like what Chris and Desh mentioned, it is important to solve problems, but it is also important to solve them well. What the Gopal Krishnan Deshpande innovation centers are doing at Madras, Delhi, Bombay, etc., we need 3x, 5x of that. The technology innovation hubs are taking the technology from the institutes, which are at relatively, I would say, TRL3 or so of maturity of the technology. But industry, startups, venture funding, translational research is the focus. This is not going to happen by magic. These 25 TIHs are being set up as companies, Section 8 companies, not-for-profits. They need boards, they need guidance, they need mentors, they need industry to come forward and collaborate, they need venture funding, they need enormous help. The seed funding has come from the government, not small, 100, 200 crores each. But if these have to succeed, and this has to be replicated in terms of the same model in all the other missions, AI, quantum, etc., we all have to step up individually and play roles. And as I said, there are roles in strategy, in marketing, in technology, in entrepreneurship, all of these across the country, and almost all of them are housed in the IITs, in the research parks. So please play a role, get familiar with what your IIT is doing, what role can you play in, let's say, the NMICPS, TIHs to begin with, but later in everything else. Lastly, many of these activities are going to be centered around the IITs, the IIT research parks, the incubators that are already there. I mentioned the TIHs as a new construct which will coexist with all of them. And in my introduction, Rohit also mentioned that the IIT Alumni Center in Chennai has just relocated to the research park. And with enormous support from a lot of us in alumni, spending time, spending money. Chris is a pillar of that whole effort. We are functional now as a physical space. It's not large. It's about 30,000 square feet. We are like a club. We have all the facilities. But alumni coming together in close proximity with the research park, with all this exciting stuff that I said, is going to be a game-changing trigger. In the sense that if we are able to bring that ecosystem together and you can have a drink with a senior alumnus informally and just get advice. If you're a startup, you're a industry lab, you're a faculty member, you're a student, that is going to be a multiplier effect. So IIT Alumni Center Chennai was the first one which has done this. IIT Alumni Center Bangalore is coming up. Professor Ashok Mishra is driving that. Happy to report that the same model is being talked about for all the upcoming research parks. The Calcutta Research Park, the Delhi one, the Bombay one. I'm personally pushing a lot of alumni to just get together, talk to the IITs, and they'll be more than happy to set up the space for you, but you have to run it, you have to raise the money for it, you have to actually get the membership together to make it happen. So these are examples where IIT alumni can play a role. Just to summarize, the first is to contribute to the evolution of the IIT system, play a role in the boards, in the ecosystem, evolution, thinking, strategy, fundraising, whatever. Second, bring your industries to the IIT system, set up labs, do collaborative research, mentor startups, offer internships, sabbaticals, and so on, and just contribute by yourself. Specifically, as an example of that, I had said that the Deep Science, Deep Tech is a great opportunity. Lots of great ideas, but they're not going to be coming out of the labs unless we spend the time. And so let's use that as a test case to really scale this up from an India perspective. Lastly, the role of the IITians in the rollout of these national missions. I gave you the example of the technology innovation hubs and the National Research Fund and the Quantum Fund and so on and so forth. Let's play a role in whatever way we can in helping this system scale phenomenally. And finally, let's have some fun in the IIT alumni centers as well. Think of it as our version of the Harvard Club, the MIT Club, the Yale Club, which have existed for 100 years. This is what we will be building for this century for ourselves, and then, of course, helping the whole ecosystem. Thank you. Great pleasure and privilege to talk to this audience. And back to you, Rohit.
Thank you, Anant. And just to let you know, we've started some work towards setting up the center in Delhi. We'll get back to you once some things are concrete. So got a few senior alumni involved, and hopefully we will start. I think this conference would be a trigger, for actually pushing alumni to get together and set that up. I'm highly encouraged by the way the Chennai and the Bangalore centers have come up, and I think we can really replicate this in other cities where research parks have been set up. Having said that, over to you, Debashish, for the rest of the session. Dada, you're on mute.
Thank you very much, Rohit. It is my pleasure to be able to, let us say, close one door and open it for the next opportunity, right? So I will jump to it right away. It has been a very, very intense 36 hours. And I am surprised. I'm surprised because it took us 10 months to conceive, prepare, and deliver the summit. And delivery happened in just 2 days flat. So it actually gives us something to ponder upon. This was a challenge to all of us, as this was the first time we were organizing a major event for Pan IIT on a virtual platform. So major event, Pan IIT virtual platform, an environment about which none of us were cognizant. The other challenge was our overarching objective of creating a platform to connect IIT alumni together, irrespective of their geographical locations and irrespective of their organizational affiliations, which I'm happy to say we have achieved. And alumni are connecting up. When we started, we had barely 4,000 followers on social media. And now from all our social media channels, overall, we have upwards of 80,000 followers. And we are planning to create a followership of at least 6 lakhs, which is the strength of IIT alumni across the globe. What pivoted our perspective was one thought, voiced by one of our core team members in the third meeting. And that was this: since we were doing a virtual event, why don't we make it global? That sparked and resulted in networking and enlarging of the summit concept, reaching out to fellow alumni from across the globe, from which 3 other bodies came together, stood by us, worked with us, and made us deliver the summit in the form that you saw presented, flowing with the sun, starting with Australia, handed over to India, India hands over to UK, then to USA, back to India, and I am now delivering the closing address. So our fellow alumni from these countries ensured that the summit was delivered to the satisfaction of the organizers and the satisfaction of the other stakeholders. As we progressed with our plans, alumni from Singapore, Japan, UAE, Kuwait, and other parts of the world started connecting with us, trying to understand the magnitude of our desire and vision, and supported us. This was that one occasion when the power of alumni network was manifest to us in no uncertain terms. And we are now confident that we, the alumni, can deliver any event of any magnitude in the co-option collaboration model that the consultants usually imply. It would be pertinent to say now that many of us did not believe that we will be able to deliver an event with such an overarching objective and the expanded scope of work and ambit. Even then, they provided full support to the organizing team. On behalf of my team, I am happy to say that naysayers have seen that such an event is possible, which should boost up their confidence in themselves and in the spirit of the IIT alumni. Everyone connected to this event has contributed to the success of the event. I would like to start with our sponsors, without whom none of this would have been possible. When we went to them, we went with a dream. It is their greatness that they believed in the dream, believed in us, and entrusted their vision of the outcome they desired with us. I thank Srimati Asha Jadeja Motwani of the Motwani Jadeja Foundation and an established Silicon Valley venture capitalist, Shri Sumit Mukhija and his organization ST Telemedia GTC India, of which he is the CEO. Vertiv, of which Shri Sunil Khanna is the chairman. Ease My Trip, Prashant Pitti is our EC member. Schneider Electric, TechTouch.ai, which is again an alumnus-run organization. All of them are our sponsors for believing in us and supporting us to develop and deliver the summit. And they have also promised to be our partners when we create a game plan for continuing ongoing initiatives. Thank you very much for your participation and support. I thank the state of Tamil Nadu and Electronics Corporation of Tamil Nadu for supporting us as a partner state, and especially Thiru M.K. Stalin, Honorable Chief Minister, because of whose interest and direction the state became our partner as partner state for the summit. I'm also thankful to Dr. Neeraj Mittal, Principal Secretary, IT, Government of Tamil Nadu, and Shri Ajay Yadav, MD of ELCOT, for their unstinting support, and for Thiru Mano Tangaraj for joining us, whereby underlying the commitment of the state. I thank also our partners. The functions for which they took responsibility got delivered smoothly because of their commitment. I thank HackerEarth, whose platform we use to run the hackathon. Connector, whose platform we use to manage the startup showcase. And Times Internet, whose platform vConfix we use to run the summit completely, where we all are sitting, is a part of that particular platform. Cyber Media, TIE Delhi NCR, the Council of Higher Education Israel, and the Embassy of Israel to India, Alma Shines, This Side Up, and AccelNet, all of whom supported the event and us all the way. We have also been supported by Pan IIT Reach for India Foundation, Wheels Global, and IITstartups.org, for which they deserve our immense gratitude. Thank you, our sponsors and partners. Your support was absolutely critical to get off the block and deliver the summit. The IITs, I'm happy to say all 23 of them are our mainstays. Without their support, we are nowhere. They have supported us throughout our journey in all our endeavors, to the extent that they put up booths at the summit almost 15 days before the event started for sharing their competence, expertise, research outcomes, their achievements, and those of their students and alumni. To the directors and deans, we acknowledge and thank for their support for participating in something which they themselves did not understand when we went to them with a proposal. The hackathon could be conducted successfully because of the developers who came in to participate and the jury members and mentors who helped us assess and review the solution proposals and multiple rounds of pitches to arrive at the winners. I thank each one of the developers and jury members and mentors for having participated and making the hackathon a success. Just a moment. The startup showcase, while exciting, was an extremely high-pressure activity, which was handled smoothly thanks to the support of all the investors who joined us and made the showcase a success, which also contributed in turn to the summit's success. The volunteers, students, and alumni alike came together, closed ranks with us, and as one, we delivered the summit. Thank you very much for your support. Our general body, our executive committee, and the alumni associations of the individual IITs have also supported us. Thank you very much. Deepak Mirza, our nodal officer, who diligently kept coordinating with and calling the IITs, also I thank. I should say that my fellow office bearers trusted our capability to deliver the event, even though we went through crises of confidence from time to time. It was at these moments they stood behind us and supported us. Krishandhar, Raj Nair, Raja Venkatraman, thank you very much. Same goes for our fellow EC members. All the members of the core team, which planned, conceived, prepared, and delivered this grand summit, also deserve thanks and gratitude, as it was they who set aside time to invest in this summit and worked with their intent and heart. I could not have asked for a better team to deliver this summit. With your permission, I would like to acknowledge each one of these exceptional alumni and students by calling out their names. Had it been an in-person event, we would have taken a group photograph. Just give me a moment. Right. Our conference chairs, Arun Jain, Rohit Koshi. Sponsorship, which is one of the most difficult and thankless jobs, handled by Sunil Khanna, Shagun Chadda. Hackathon was phenomenally managed and coordinated by Vikraman, who has done this with us for the second time. Exceptional person. Technology was handled by Bhuvaneshwari. Her approach was not liked by many, but the kind of skill she brought in to negotiate with the partner, got the scope clear, and pushed us to meet our timelines is phenomenal. Thank you very much, Bhuvaneshwari. On marketing and outreach, we had Praveen Kumar, Vasudha Paul, Nehal Gautam, and many of our other members who pitched in. Thank you very much for helping us achieve what we never imagined we could. On the volunteer side, Kannan S. Iyer, who came in later, took charge of that. Thank you very much, Kannan. He, along with Bhuvaneshwari and Praveen, did reach out to the IITs and organize the volunteers that supported us throughout the event. On the program side, Pradeep had an unenviable job. He was handling two very, very large initiatives. One was the program overall for India, integrating the programs of the other countries with the main program, and also the startup showcase. He deserves an additional and an exceptional thanks from my side. He has done a phenomenal job with his team, which comprised Tirumala Gudla, Vinita, Arka, Kamlesh, Avikalp, Manjeer, Naveen, Niket, and A.S. Prasad. Many of them are also students who work with us. On the Team US side, Arun led the team with Sanjeev Goel, Kalyan Gumudam, Dhirendra Sinha, Mohit Singh, Amit Kushba, Raghu Suram, Somesh Khandelwal, Sandeep Katasani, Prithvi Sriram. Team UK was led by Shankar Meembut, the current chairman of the Iit Alumni of UK, with Nitin Jain, Ninad Sancheti, Sandeep Reddy, Ajay Chaudhary. Team Australia was one of the first to come to us and work with us. Nipen Shah led the team with Ravi Jain, Sharbani Dhar, Gagan Daroj, Deepa Jayabhadran, Nishita Boda, Amit Chandra, Samit Chandra, Selvin D'Souza. On the startup side, Swadeep Pillarisetti did a phenomenal job, supported by Rajiv Shukla, Sandeep Mehta, Satinder, Devesh Gautam, Ajay Mutreja, Lokendra, Narahari, Sumanyu, Vardarajan Raghunathan, Pranay Gupta, Parikshit, Pratyush, and Manthan. The students, volunteers, the more I say, it is still low. We have Sarthak Marathe, Snigdha, Kishore Khanna, Kirtan Venkat, Kaushal Kapoor, Revati Sawant, Yatharth Singh, Nirjara Bhaure, Neeraj Kumar, Humangshu DJ, Ravuri Sivatmika, Nilesh Gupta, Kamlesh Chaudhary, Utsav Mukherjee, Vidyut Datta, and many more whose names I do not have. We had about 180 coordinators and students who worked with us. Thank you very much. Without all of you, we would not have delivered this event. At the end, with such illustrious and senior alumni in front of us, our promise is that we will now deliver something which is far more impactful, far more of a magnitude. We have already started identifying our way ahead, and that is to create a plan that is ongoing, and we cannot be living event by event. Event by event means we go from zero to hero at one point of time and then suddenly drop to zero, not the best way of moving forward. So this is a decision that we have taken in the EC, that we will go ahead in an ongoing manner, and we will get our sponsors and partners to support us for a tenure rather than on an event by event basis. That will help us deliver value to our stakeholders. That will help us deliver value to ourselves, and it will deliver value to all the people who collaborate with us from student side, from faculty side, and other side. In my opinion, this is possibly one of the best things that we can gift to the students and alumni. This is a leadership training, which I think has no parallel anywhere else. With these, I would like to bring the event to a close. Thank you everybody for taking time out, being with us, and helping us deliver a promise, which was daunting even for us. Thank you very much. Good night to you. Happy weekend, and we'll get back soon with each one of you with our future plans. Thank you. Bye.